Hello, I'm Bree, offering a commentary on one of my new favorite books, written by Yogi Yogananda. So very briefly, Yogananda is a Bengali that was born in 1893, and he's one of the first Indian masters to settle in America and not only make America his home for the next 32 years of his life, but to also make it his international headquarters for his organization, the Self-Realization Fellowship. So the Self-Realization Fellowship was the organization through which he propagated his lineage of Kriya Yoga and also the wisdom of the Vedanta philosophy. So 26 years after he settled in America, he wrote the book that changed the spiritual climate of the West, and that is Autobiography of a Yogi. And in here, Yogananda writes what it was like to grow up in India and follow a spiritual path as a young man in the turn of the century, and what it was like to live the life of a renunciate and meet the guru that would change his life forever. He also wrote about what it was like to hear the call to go to America and teach a very economically rich but very spiritually poor country. So these teachings were delivered by Yogananda at a time when the atomic bomb was invented, and it came with a solution for peace, achieved through the connection with the divine, and it was written to hopefully inspire nations to forsake wars and race hatreds and religious sectarianism and essentially the boomerang evils of materialism. One particular teaching that really resonated with me is the one offered by Lahiri Mahashai, the guru of Yogananda's guru. And he brought a practical message to our modern world, suggesting that spiritual life is dependent on inner rather than outer renunciations. So in other words, you don't need to escape into the Himalayan mountains and join a secret band of masters to become enlightened. There's a quote in the book that says, "A yogi that earns his own living is not dependent on a hard-pressed society for support, and union with the divine is possible through self-effort rather than arbitrary philosophy." And I really like this because it gives hope to regular folk like me living the 9-to-5 lifestyle, suggesting that it's possible to actively participate in the mundane world and yet not be of it. So although this book is written as the memoirs of an Indian master, it reads like fantasy fiction with stories like tiger fighting gurus, saints that never eat, and masters that command the laws of nature so to manifest castles and resurrect the dead simply by sheer will. So 6 years after he wrote the book, Yogananda died at the ripe age of 59, leaving behind a strong legacy of spiritual knowledge, so potent that today 50,000 copies of this book are sold annually. It was even said that tech visionary Steve Jobs had a copy of this book on his iPad, and it was the only book that he had on his iPad. So it's a pretty substantial book, and it teaches many things, but to put it simply, it teaches what all ancient truths teach, which is self-realization. This is to say that Yogananda invites us to consider that we're more than our bodies and the roles that we play and the things we experience on the divine stage of life. He encourages us to contemplate our higher nature and the unimaginable possibilities, particularly as we endeavor upon the path of liberation from the grand illusion being that we are separate from the divine force that creates us. So to conclude, I would like to share a poem that I wrote inspired by the teachings of Yogananda, entitled Here I Am. God is living in my spine. Holographic universes projecting movies on my mind, moving these energetic circuitries divine, unfurling these cosmic mysteries sublime. Oh, sweet child of mine, it's time to rise awake and shake the scales of old skin anew, and break down the gates of frauds and fakes, embracing your spirit's truth. Truly you are not a cog in the machine of other men's dreams, and your piece of the pie may keep you alive, but it can never give you life. Survivor is a game we play to prolong the rise of consciousness, the proverbial sandbox of the unconscious. I'm on to this. ears cocked back, listening to the silences between the sounds. The silences resound more powerfully than the ground that held my seed before I sprung. And in the space, I know I've won. I never lost. I was just lost. But here I am. Here I am. Thank you. That's all for my video commentary. I hope you enjoyed, and take care. Bye.